What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, and this is the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G. And in this video, we're going to be going over my top 5 best and top 5 worst things about this device. So let's get started. So first, I'll go over my top 5 favorite things, and then for the second half of the video, I'll go over my top 5 least favorite things. Now, coming in at number 1 for one of my favorite things about this phone, that definitely has to be that we have an in-display fingerprint sensor. And not only is it built into the display, but it actually works very well. So as you saw there, it's very fast and responsive. There we go. Once again, I'll give it a third try right now. And that works super well. So it's pretty unheard of for lower end devices like this one, maybe outside of at least Samsung's A series, to have an in-display fingerprint sensor. I'm really glad that we have it here with the A33 5G though. And I'm also glad that it does work really well. Now, in addition to having that in-display fingerprint sensor, this device also features Face Unlock, so I do appreciate that we have multiple methods here for accessing the phone. But by having it be built into the display, it gives the phone a super sleek and clean layout, as there's nothing on the back, as in no fingerprint sensor, and there's also no fingerprint sensor then on the power button. So it's really cool that it's here. Definitely really no downsides to it. So I'm glad that Samsung did give us this feature that we typically find with more premium devices. Now moving on to my second favorite thing about this phone, that definitely has to be the cameras. Now with the Galaxy A33 5G, we have a quad camera setup on the back of the phone. So we have a 48 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera that can capture images at up to 123 degrees, a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera for portrait mode, and a 5 megapixel macro camera for close-up images. And then the front-facing camera is 13 megapixels. So while the camera quality is nowhere near as good as what you'd get with a more premium device, like the Galaxy S22 Ultra, for example, I still at least appreciate that we do at least have so many different cameras. So if you find yourself using all these various features quite a bit, then that can probably give you a further justification to spend more money on your next phone. But the good news though is that you can still get very good results with all the various cameras on this device. So here's how things look right now with the main camera. Then from here, we can switch over to the ultra wide angle camera to fit a lot more content into the frame. We can also then head over to the More tab to access the macro camera so that we can get very close up and have things be in really good detail. We can then head over to portrait mode to get those nice blurred out backgrounds. And then we can flip around to the front facing camera to do the same thing. So there's me right there. We can also take standard selfies as well. And this device also features a group selfie mode, which does crop things out a little bit so that you can fit multiple people in a selfie. So if you are somebody that's really into mobile photography, then I think you're definitely going to like the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G, because even though it is a lower end phone, you're still getting some really great cameras here and quite a few features as well. My third favorite thing about this device is that it features NFC. Now NFC is the technology used for mobile contactless payments, and you can use it for tap and pay, for example. So that's really convenient, as you can use Samsung Pay with this phone. And most often, devices that are lower end like this one don't even have NFC. So it's great to see that Samsung did give us that feature. I know that for me, I personally try to make as many payments with my phone instead of actually pulling a credit card out of my wallet whenever I'm out and about. So it's definitely disappointing to use a phone that doesn't have NFC, because it really does downgrade my experience overall. Now, if you have no interest in making payments with your phone, then I suppose it doesn't really matter a whole lot to you. But at the same time, if you end up getting this device and you've never actually used NFC to pay for anything, then I definitely recommend giving it a try, as it is really convenient. My fourth favorite thing about the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G definitely has to be the display. Now with this device, we're getting a very large 6.4-inch display. And in addition to that, it features Super AMOLED technology, so we're getting very good colors here. The display itself is 1080p, so also very crisp and clear. We have a PPI of 411, a 20:9 aspect ratio, so a more narrow but taller form factor, and an 83.7% screen-to-body ratio. And in addition to that, this is a 90 Hz display, which means that you are going to be getting a little bit of a faster refresh rate compared to some lower end phones that have 60 Hz displays. So it does make things run a bit smoother here, so not a big deal, but at the same time, a nice feature to have that does make this display even better. So it's a great looking display, so if you find yourself using your device for watching video content, reading ebooks, maybe going on websites and social media as well, then you're certainly not gonna have any issues with the display itself, as it is gonna make all that content look great. And then coming in at number 5 definitely has to be that we're getting a lot of internal storage here with the Galaxy A33 5G. Now this device is offered in 2 different storage configurations, 128 gigabytes or 256 gigabytes. And in addition to that, this phone does support microSD card expansion so that you can offload photos and videos, for example. So whether you go for the higher or lower configuration, either way, you still are getting a lot of internal storage, which is definitely a great thing. But now that I've gone over my top 5 favorite things about this device, I now want to go over my top 5 least favorite things. Now, I don't think any of these things are necessarily a deal breaker for most people out there, but at the same time, I do think they are things that you will want to be aware of so that there aren't any surprises if you happen to buy this phone. Now, the first thing is the notch up top here. Now, we're in 2022, and I'd hoped that by this point, we wouldn't be seeing water drop notches anymore on really any smartphones. But unfortunately, we do have that here with the A33 5G. We also have a little bit of a thicker bottom bezel as well, and while I don't necessarily think either of those two things are deal breakers, like I mentioned, they are still things that I think should be improved upon in the next generation of this phone. Now, coming in at number 2 is that there is no charger included in the box. Now, if you watched my hands-on and first impressions video of this phone, I showed you the box, which as you can see here, it is pretty slim. And one of the reasons why the box is so slim is because there is no charger included. Now, Samsung does at least provide us with a double-sided USB-C cable. However, if you don't have any USB-C adapters for charging, then you will have to go out and get one on your own. And if you're like me, you probably do already have a lot of chargers laying around, like this one, for example. However, this is a USB-A charger, and because of that, I can't actually use the cable that's included in the box with a charger like this one. Another thing to keep in mind as well is that the battery on this phone can be charged at up to 25 watts, which is great. That's definitely fast charging, probably about as fast as it gets with lower end phones like this one. But in order to charge this phone at 25 watts, you also have to have a 25 watt fast charger. Most chargers do not max out at that wattage, so that's another thing to keep in mind as well. So if it seems like your phone is charging pretty slowly, that's most likely due to you actually using a wall adapter that can't charge this phone at the maximum wattage that it's capable of being recharged at. Now, the third worst thing about this device, which is another reason why you might not want to get it, is that there is no wireless charging. Now, none of the phones in Samsung's A series do have wireless charging. However, if your current phone does have wireless charging and you find yourself using that quite a bit, then you probably will miss not having that feature here on the Galaxy A33 5G. I know that for me at least, with every phone that I use that has wireless charging, I'm always using that. I have multiple wireless charging docks all around my studio, and it certainly does come in handy quite a bit. So whenever I'm using a phone that doesn't support wireless charging, that always does get a little bit frustrating. Again, it is something that I can live without, but at the same time, it is a bit of a downgrade from a device that actually does support that. Now, coming in at number 4 is that there is no Samsung Dex compatibility with the Galaxy A33 5G. Now, if you're not familiar with Samsung Dex, that is the desktop mode that most of Samsung's S series and Note series devices do support. In fact, it was introduced with the Galaxy S8, so it has been out for a while at this point. But essentially, with phones that do support Dex, you can then plug the phone into a larger monitor and have a full desktop mode on that monitor. So essentially, you could then use your device almost like as if it was a full computer. So that's a really cool feature, and I know that people who actually use that feature really like it, but keep in mind that if you are using that feature with maybe an older S series phone, for example, or a Note series phone, and you want to upgrade to the A33 5G, then you won't be able to find that feature here with this phone. It is disappointing that none of the A series devices have Dex, but I suppose that's a feature that Samsung wanted to keep for their higher end devices to give you a reason to spend a bit more. And then for my final reason to not get the A33 5G, that definitely has to be that there is no 3.5mm headphone jack to be found on this device. Now, Apple was the original company that sold a smartphone without a 3.5mm headphone jack. That device was the iPhone 7, so that was quite a while ago. And ever since then, there haven't been any new iPhones that have a 3.5mm headphone jack. Now, a few years after that, Samsung then followed that trend, getting rid of the headphone jack on all of their higher end phones. However, for a while, Samsung's A series still retained the headphone jack. But this year, they did decide to change that, as many devices in the A series, including this phone and the A53 5G, don't have a headphone jack at all. Now, if you absolutely must use wired headphones with this device, then thankfully you can get an adapter to plug into the USB-C port on the bottom of the phone. However, if you don't want to do that, then you are limited to using Bluetooth headphones with this device. So I don't know if that's really a big deal to you or not. Definitely let me know in the comment section below. But at the same time, if you do have a lot of wired headphones already and you want to get a new device but still be able to use that with those headphones, then again, you can't do that here with the A33 5G unless you do get an adapter. But this concludes my video on the top 5 best and worst things about the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G. If you enjoyed this video, definitely give it a thumbs up, sub to the channel, and let me know what other content you'd like to see me create regarding this device. But this is Kevin here, this is the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G, and I will see you in the next video. Take care and have a great rest of your day.